Insider presents Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lachlan. We cover entertainment, news, and tech with special guest appearances. So sit back and enjoy as we geek out together right now.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Geek Speak. I'm Meredith Lachlan with my co-chair, Matthew Harris, and we have two special guests, believe it or not. Don't believe your eyes. It's not just Chuck Pineau. Hey, you guys.
Hey, what's up?
Why don't you guys introduce yourselves? Let's start with Chuck. We're going to put you on the big screen, then we'll pop Shaun up on the big screen. Here you go.
Yes, ma'am. What's up, gang? I'm Chuck Pineau. I'm a freelance writer and editor. I've worked on such amazing properties as Welcome to the Void, Belial, Essence House, and much more. Those are my personal projects. Of course, I do all sorts of other things. I've worked on lots of people's projects, and I have my Chuck's Raw Reviews, which is a great YouTube site where I love to talk about other people's projects because eventually, well, I certainly don't get tired of talking about me, but I do it just so that they feel good. They feel like they get their time too. So whatever you can do to help people out, right?
Absolutely. All right, let's pop you up here. Hey, Shaun, say hello and introduce yourself.
Hey, my name is Shaun Barbour. I am a freelance inker, and I have actually been known to have inked Chuck's book for Welcome to the Void, and also co-creator and inker for Belial, and also currently one of the freelance inkers in the anthology for Mississippi Zombie, as well as a bunch of other titles as well. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm not as fancy as Chuck, but hey.
Now, I got a quick question before we get started on anything here. When Chuck was up on the big screen, I was able to ignore his big head on the big screen, but I got to know, over your right shoulder, is that the Star Wars Cuckoo clock?
Yeah, it is, buddy.
I have the same fucking clock, and then I also have the Star Trek one. And so I have two of them from the same company, but yeah, I have that exact same cuckoo clock.
The Trek would be for my wife, because I don't hate Star Trek. I'm not one of those guys. Right. But I definitely have my favorite, and Star Wars is definitely my favorite.
Well, see, and Star Wars is my favorite, but I also have a great appreciation for Star Trek. And so I did buy my Star Wars Cuckoo clock first, and then I bought the Star Trek. By far, the Star Trek is more annoying because it plays the entire effing theme at the top of every hour, and it has a volume button that'll go up. And my wife, who was my fiance at the time, she's like, "You got to turn that shit off." I mean, it just
the
keeps
volume
going.
just goes up, never comes back down.
Right.
We see when we moved, we pulled the we pulled the batteries out, and then when we moved here, I was like, I'm just not gonna fucking put them back in yet. Like, it's a wall piece. It's something that I love, but I never look at clocks. Everything that I do in work, my phone, my computer, everything, it all has a clock. Yeah. So I don't need a clock. I have that because Darth Vader's fucking badass, and so is Luke Skywalker, and that's why it's there. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a clock.
And I was so pissed off after this last move. Mine is actually still in storage. I just even got my faces up here, my life mask, which if you look, the wall goes way up.
Those are dope.
And so I haven't put my clocks back up yet, but I noticed after this last move, freaking Darth Vader's lightsaber's bent. And so it pissed me off.
Oh, yeah.
I try to pack stuff so carefully. I mean, I got a whole case here that's all breakable stuff. And so I try to package that stuff really carefully. And even my Logan, the glass case, you can't see it, but it's broken. And that was after we moved. And I paid I won't say how much I paid. I paid a lot of money to get that framed because it's not just a poster. It's this stretchy, thick. I mean, it's a badass poster for Logan.
All right, I'm going to cut in here.
We were
you guys are fanboying about stuff.
Yeah,
let's talk about.
We still got more stuff behind Chuck to talk about.
Jesus. Right.
See, I was going to say that speaking of life masks, real quick, Shaun here actually has a collection of life masks, only he calls them victims.
Much more intimidating than the dishes you see behind you.
They really are.
I like it. I like it a lot.
That's like the Stephen King quote that I love. It was an old interview, and they said, "Mr. King, we understand that you say you have the heart of a young boy," and he said, "I do. It sits in a jar on my desk."
Oh, this is going to be good.
So now tell us, Chuck, Belial number 2. So obviously there was a number 1. I've seen the Kickstarter. I don't have it in my hot little hands. So I'm hoping when you guys launch that I'll have the opportunity to get both.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
All right. So tell us a little bit about it. Like, where did the story come from for Belial? Whose twisted head did it fall out of?
That dude right there. Shaun, if you want it, seriously. When you talk about the twisted, the great thing about Belial is very much a dichotomy. It's two different personalities who decided, hey, want to make a book? Which was a fucking terrible idea. But it somehow is working. So if you want to start with the twisted side, where Belial came from, it's this dude right here. Go ahead, Shaun.
Originally, the idea was a lot darker, and I like to play in the whole religious aspect of the fact that in the oldest text, Belial was said to have been created as the original ruler of hell before Lucifer was usurped and kicked out of heaven. And so I like that idea so much that I wanted to play with the idea of the fact that what would Belial have done once everything he had worked for created, once he had been kicked out of that, what would happen to him? And I would venture to say that he'd have a pretty solid stance on where he felt on the inside. But in doing that, what would that do to his personality? And so going with the fact that he was the one that created the original structure, in which case I refer to Dante's Inferno, like bringing in that side of things, and the fact that he was given just this little portion of hell to kind of run. And as the years and time passed, everything started to get dilapidated and fall apart. And much of what you would see, like say in today's context with movies and such, everything's run down, on fire, just chaos everywhere, where originally all the sinners and stuff, I would assume that there would have had to have been an amount of structure. It's not just willy-nilly. So that's about what I had put together when I kind of turned to Chuck, shot him the idea, and he basically said, okay, yeah, no, that's good, but let's give it a titty twister and see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I twisted the shit out of that titty too. That's true.
It was good. We both liked it, so it's okay.
Right? Well, because the thing is, and we were talking about this a little beforehand. I was named after a priest. My family is fairly religious and whatnot, and I'm personally agnostic. So for me, I didn't want to really like delve into the evil, but also I felt like that's been done now. Obviously not Belial the way we're telling it, but reading another hell story with really fucking grotesque art and whatnot, like it all feels done. And so I kind of went, hey, what if we had some fun with it and like made it fucking hilarious? And he was like, oh yeah, okay, what does that look like? And so I wrote up my script and sent it to him, and we both had a laugh and thought, hey, this feels really fresh and different. And so we really have just since then really and luckily Shaun on his own is a fucking funny dude. So we get to, riff and make jokes and talk back and forth and he'll be like, oh dude, what about this? Can we joke about this? And I'm like, yeah, I think we could play with that. And so we get to just be terrible, twisted people and just be funny doing it. And so that's been just a damn ball, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, make mine a double is, I grew up in the bar business, so I'm just like, well, is it, demons getting drunk and disorderly,
Still, yeah, no, that's
layers on this one.
Yeah, absolutely, right. Well, because I mean, it's issue 2. So the thing is that the little section of hell that that Shaun was talking about, I ended up deciding that it was just a shitty bar that he was stuck with, and so he basically runs. And I mean, he doesn't even do anything in this shitty bar. He actually has his friends doing all the work, while he just sits around, gets drunk, gets wasted, and has his naked skeleton chicks dancing for him and stuff. So,
oh, that sounds sexy.
right. So, you know what? Maybe he likes the bone now and then. Whatever. So he's evil. He can do whatever he wants. So he's having, I mean, he's got this shitty bar and he's got nothing to live for, and he's a has-been, and he knows that his life has peaked. And so we decided that we really wanted to lean into the funny and the bar stuff. And so make mine a double was just, it was obvious to us. It was just like, yes, this is exactly what it has to be. And of course, issue 2, there's definitely some poop jokes in there too. And we had some fun with that. So
2 bad guys in this one versus 1 in the first one.
Yep. Yeah, that's right.
So
2 bad guys in this one as well. Yeah, we really leaned into all of that and just had fun with the number 2, which no one ever does.
Oh yeah,
having fun with number 2. Having fun with number 2. I think a lot of people. There are some folks out there that do have fun with that.
Just saying,
okay, they are, but the difference is that they're celebrities and they can get away with it. We can't do that. Like I can't have an R. Kelly thing going on in my life right now. I'm not big enough.
I was going to say, was that R. Kelly or Sylvester Stallone?
I think it's probably both. Let's be honest.
Now, Chuck, I wanted to ask, well, Meredith, you got the share screen up there. Did you want to show some more of that?
Well, that's all there is, folks.
Oh,
yeah, it's just a follow page right now.
Yeah, because
and when does that kick off?
That's what I was going to ask.
October 13th.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys think that this is a fun idea, please follow it, because we got a really cool thing leaning into that bar thing. We want to blow this up as quickly as possible and really get you. We have so many cool stretch goals and stuff set up. So what we did to entice people is the first 50 people who get a physical copy or any kind of physical rewards, they will be given a free Belial coaster.
Oh, cool.
There you go. Right
free
there.
Swag,
if you guys want to show Shaun's page off, that's the coaster. It's so badass.
Yeah, Shaun, make sure that you drop the link where I can find that in private chat, and I'll share that.
He's showing it on his screen right now.
Oh, hold on a second. Let's get you on the big screen here. I almost removed you.
So that's link.
That'd be funny.
We did it at the same time.
Yeah. All right, I'm not touching it. You do it.
So technically, we are showing you the link.
There you go. All right, so that's the coaster.
I'm pretty sure I dated her.
I was gonna say I've seen some images of Belial and he's been a lot cuter.
This is Link, his little buddy.
Okay, gotcha.
And Link almost gets more screen time sometimes, though in this next issue we kind of took that away. So Belial is the big bad boy in the back there.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Now, and this is the main cover for 2.
Link is there. Nice. That's Mammon. In the middle, we've got Belial. This is one of our bad guys there. That's Pestilence, and then we've got Famine in the background, and that's what you're looking at for. This is the regular cover, the standard cover for issue number 2.
So was that
the toilet paper does not go unnoticed.
Good.
Well, but I want to know with Pestilence and Famine, are the bad guys in this the 4 horsemen?
Yep.
Very much
Yeah.
so. So the backstory as far as how Belial lost his power was that he was tricked. He was actually really powerful, but Lucifer teamed up with the Four Horsemen as his generals and tricked Belial out of his power. So they each have a piece of what Belial's original power was, and that's how they've maintained their power over hell. And we saw in number 1 the reclamation of one of those powers and how that kind of worked when he faced up against war in the first issue.
Well, that's very cool, man. A big portion of my own writings, just short stories and novels that I have in mind that are outlined. It is a lot of heaven versus hell and play on the religious aspect of Satan and death and the Four Horsemen and angels. I mean, I've used so much of that stuff. And so this is definitely something that's right up my alley. I haven't seen issue 1. I'm going to have to. Now, is that going to be offered with 2 when you launch it out, that we can get both 1 and 2? Okay, good deal.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, in fact, with any of the tiers, basically, we do have the one that's set up to get 1 and 2 together. But we also have, like, for any of the other physical tiers that you get, like any of the variant covers or anything else like that, that for, like, say $5, you're going to get number 1, a physical with that as well. So
now, one thing I'm going to throw out there, just in case you guys haven't thought about it, because this is something I've personally seen in the last 7 months with a lot of these Kickstarters and Indiegogo accounts or campaigns, is that they'll have these great standard covers and then these variant covers, but then they don't have a freaking tier where I can get all of them. And I had to have an S with Iva create a tier for me where it had the standard and the variant. So just think of that as you guys go through if you haven't already.
Already thought of it, buddy.
Good deal.
All right. Well, we're going to be right back. Chuck, you're going to finish that thought afterwards?
The boss is out.
Yes, ma'am.
And then we're going to talk Essence House. We'll be right back.
Check it out. MobileEdge.com has award-winning products with innovative features and contemporary, edgy designs that empower you to look sharp and travel smart with your mobile tech. Your beloved, not to mention expensive gaming gear and mobile tech devices are an extension of you, so give them the protection and style they deserve wherever you go. Find them at MobileEdge.com and protect your tech with Mobile Edge. Bring it on. Hey Geek Insiders, Mobile Edge has a special coupon code for our dedicated listeners. Get 25% off your Mobile Edge gear using coupon code GEEK25. That's GEEK25. Geek out.
Geek out.
All right, we're back. Well, you know what? We have to pay the bills a little bit. So,
Oh, yeah.
So now here we go. We have Essence House, a science fiction time travel novel.
Uh-oh.
Chuck, this is something that you've also got your fingers in as well.
Yes. I do a lot of fingering. I'm sorry, guys. It happens. You know what? That was terrible. Oh,
I'm not ever letting you meet my wife. That's for sure.
this is the reason why we work together on shows and stuff, is we both have to laugh for it to be funny.
So, yeah. Well, no, thank you. I appreciate you bringing it up. So this is another one where I got to work with someone else. My good buddy Eric Cockrell got in touch with me, and he was like, apparently you work well with others, which obviously Shaun and him didn't talk, because that's simply not true. I'm terrible to work with. But he was like, back in 2018, he had this really neat idea. I don't know if you guys know about NaNoWriMo, National Novel Writing Month, right? So he had this idea for Essence House, and he wanted to turn it into 2 books that we would write. I would write the sequel. He would write the first. And we failed spectacularly. Spectacularly. I don't even think I made it through day 1. Like, just terrible. And so when we, again, talked about it in 2019, he was like, hey, I think we should talk about possibly doing NaNoWriMo again. And I was like, oh, okay. Fuck no. No, that's a terrible idea. He was like, really? I'm like, no, we can't. We just, you and I are way too busy to make that happen. It's just
Somebody's
not going to work.
dog is after
Yeah, it's
something.
My wife just came home, and my dogs
gotcha.
are freaking out. So I
I
apologize.
thought it was no, it's no biggie. I got a lot in here that are liable to go nuts any minute. It just sounded like it was totally after something or somebody.
Well,
That's
you
right.
know,
I thought he was saying it was his wife. So
oh, Wendy is gonna kick your
The
ass.
shots have been
I'm bringing her to
fired.
Cali.
second.
You are dead, man.
Next commercial break, Chuck's going off the air. He's going to go tell his wife, and then Shaun is screwed.
Well,
He's going to pull the shirt over his head and fill him in.
Now, I had a quick.
Before you do that, for anybody who's listening who doesn't know what NaNoWriMo is, it's National Novel Writing Month, and it's for the month of November. It's 30 days where you are challenged to write 50,000 words, which is almost 1,700 words a day if you can keep pace every single day. And it's really challenging. I've actually tried doing it. I've won, I want to say 3 or 4 times. I've failed more than I've won. And I love torturing myself, so I'm already signed up for this year.
Oh, wow.
So what month
Terrible
is that?
idea.
Is that November? Or?
Yeah, it's in the month of November.
Gotcha.
30
Now-
days.
So-
Go ahead, Chuck. No, go ahead.
Well, just to finish the story of that, so what we ended up doing was I ended up saying, well, why don't we figure out some other format to make this happen? And so we both loved the idea of making an audio drama, basically like the old 1930s and 40s radio serials.
Okay.
And that meant that if we dropped it every week or two, we could space out what we were doing and really have some fun with it. And so we loved that idea, and that was fun, and so that's what we did. So basically what we ended up doing was we dropped it January 1st, and every 2 weeks after that we've put out an episode, and the episodes are about 20 minutes long, about 3,500 words a piece. And so I started to realize, hey man, if we do 2 seasons of this, that's a book. That's right around 70 to 80,000 words. And he was like, oh, wow. Oh, yeah. Okay. So as we started to do that, it really started to coalesce and turn into something. And so now we have this novel that's forming. And we're actually, yesterday, we just dropped chapter 15.
Now, where can folks find the podcast?
The podcast you can literally find on any of the major podcast channels. Anywhere you go, look up Essence House. We're actually doing pretty good. We've got some really good numbers. I'm very happy with how it's going on. So yeah, man. Like I said, 15 just dropped, and by the end of the year, all 20 chapters will be done. And by this time next month, we'll be doing the Kickstarter for the novel, which will be even bigger because we're going back through it and we're kind of filling out the chapters, adding more detail, and just kind of doing stuff that working under time constraints didn't allow us to play with.
Right. And we definitely understand that with a podcast. You have to trim stuff out.
Right.
And it's funny, I'll do research for a podcast, and I can do research for an hour-long podcast. It's about 5 hours of research and writing and making sure that I have enough material, because I'll have 3,000 words and go, okay, cool, I got an hour's worth. And then 30 minutes into it, I'm out. My notes are done. But it's really cool. One thing that I wanted to ask, and this, I guess, really goes to you, Chuck. This isn't your first rodeo as far as Kickstarter goes. If you could give both of you, and let's put this to both of you. If you could give your best piece of advice to the guys and gals out there that they have a project, that they are ready, they think they're to that point of starting crowdfunding, what is your best piece of advice to give them?
Shaun, my dinner just showed up. You got this. Go ahead, man. I'm gonna take a bite.
All right. Well, for me,
You got voluntold.
The number one thing would be to be present. Make yourself known, make yourself visible to people, and make sure that you're willing to engage with people. Making yourself likable and identifiable as a creator, which I'll go ahead and give props to Chuck. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. But that carries over. You are the face just as much of your project as anything else. So if you don't connect, odds are then people are going to have a harder time connecting with what you're putting together. So be excited, be present. So be available to answer questions, follow up. Don't just post empty posts when you spam out your stuff. If somebody comments or something, make sure you comment back. So that's your chance to engage. If you just drop an empty post on a random page that you've joined, like a group or something like that, and there's no context, no story, no engagement, no anything, you're wasting your time. And you're also wasting other people's time that are interested in finding exciting new things. So if you're not excited and people can't tell you're excited for your stuff, they're going to have a really hard time being excited along with you. It translates over. And if that's not your bag, find a Chuck, dude. Find somebody that's excited for you. Not everybody has the charismatic mindset. So I work at a hospital, and there's two different types of doctors. There's the people that get shit done, and they're not very good with the bedside manner. And then there's people that talk real well that sometimes are viewed as more successful too because of their bedside manner. Now, that's where we have myself and Chuck. So we are, the meeting of the minds actually comes together real big. And that's where him having his podcast and his reviews, and he's always engaging with people. He's really tops when it comes to that. So
here's the question that I have for you both.
Hang on. Yep. Before you make the question there, I was just going to say Shaun just touched on some really great points there, folks. If you are not the charismatic person, you are not. Yes, you can probably talk about your project, your book, to those around you, but you may not be able to present that energy on video out there. You have to be a salesman. You have to be able to sell yourself, so to speak, and your project. If you are not the person to be on that video for your crowdfunding, then find yourself a Chuck. Find someone that you can partner with that can make that video. Ines, she had a production studio come in, and yes, it was like low key, but her voiceover worked perfect. And I have seen other folks that go in just the opposite, that they're low key, and then it just comes across as a boring effing project that I don't, even though the artwork might be great and the storyline might sound okay, but that presentation just it's lackluster and it just isn't there. And he touched on another point, and I ain't got my damn pen, so I wasn't able to jot it down. But Meredith, go ahead with your question.
Well, my question kind of piggybacks off of that a little bit, where you say find a Chuck. Well, what is your genesis story? Like, how did you guys meet and have this, meeting of the minds and stuff? Because it's not easy to find really cool people to collaborate with. A lot of times you find a lot of frogs before you find the prince,
He is my prince, by the way.
Pat is still a frog.
Well, I will say something. I love and appreciate that he says find yourself a Chuck, but Chuck's out there, find yourself a Shaun, because that guy, we have over 90 memes that are Belial centric that he has made. They're hilarious, and he has them going out all the time. So what I do is not necessarily what he does, but what he does, I have no interest in doing. So we do have a really good partnership, and it's easy for it to look like, oh, Chuck does everything. Well, but I'm the face, so it's going to look like that, but it's not even close to true. Right. The fact of the matter is that the behind-the-scenes work and the memes and all the other stuff, the great posts, all that stuff, that's Shaun, and he works his ass off on that, and I don't even pretend that I have anything to do with that stuff. He's a funny dude on his own, and he makes that stuff happen. So to get to the Genesis story, which is a great word to use for the Hell book, we're both comic creators. He had a book that he was working on. I had a book that I was trying to get happening. And as comic creators, you have to find that comic creator community. And it's really important to find those people. And so he runs a great group called Indie Comic Conspiracy. And I joined that, and I'm an admin there, and he and I would chat and have a good old time and became really good friends. And I loved his work, and I needed to save some money on my book, but I also I loved his work. And I was like, dude, I can not only get this guy to work for me, but I could also save a little bit of money, because the guy who I originally had penciling it, that was going to be expensive. And so, and I loved what Shaun brought to the project. So I talked to him, had him come on to Welcome to the Void. He was my inker for that. He did an amazing job, and he was so helpful with everything. And so while we were working on that, he said, hey, man, I have this idea, but I really, he was working on someone else's project at the time. And he's like, I kind of want my own project. And I have this idea, and he threw it by me, and he threw by me the idea of Belial. And I'm sure he could tell you, I got so excited that I wrote up a treatment for all 4 of the issues as it would look if I were to write it. And I sent it off to him either that night or the next day, but I'm pretty sure it was that night.
I think it was that night.
I had it. Yeah, I had it done and sent it off to him. And we have actually not strayed from that treatment very much. I'm big on outlining. And so the one thing that did bite me in the ass is that I didn't put a lot of detail into issue 2. I knew the major beats of issues 1, 3, and 4. And 2 just didn't have a lot of juice there. And that's kind of been some of the issue, is that I just got so stuck on 2. And luckily, Shaun and I, kind of came together and really sort of worked through this and what we wanted to do with it. And so now we have what I would call a really tight book. Like, number 2 is almost never better than number 1. But I'm telling you guys, storytelling, art, everybody is so much tighter. This is such a better book than number 1, and I loved 1. Nice. So yeah, it's come together really well.
Now I wanted to jump back real quick, because I did think of the point that I wanted to touch on that Shaun spoke about, and then I've got another question. Well, I want to pose one to you, Chuck. Chuck, go ahead and go off camera and take another couple of bites, man. But Shaun mentioned a minute ago, folks, that you have to engage with your audience on these campaigns. And when you have somebody that does make a comment, one of the biggest disciplines that I can have is going to one of these campaigns, and it's been going on for 15, 16 days, and there's no update from the person running it. And then B, there's comments, and it might be 2, it might be 7 or 10 or 15, but then you're not seeing any kind of engagement from the person running the campaign or anybody from the campaign. That is one of the quickest ways for me not to get involved, because I'm not seeing that engagement there. I don't need you in within 10 minutes answer somebody, but at least within a couple of days. You have to show that you are pumped about this, going right back to what that other thing Shaun said, and that you're excited about this project. You're excited about the people that are willing to part or open their wallets and part with their hard-earned dollars. And so just piggybacking off of what Shaun said earlier, stay engaged on these projects. And I see that Chuck is eating one of Texas's favorites, which is Whataburger.
That's right.
Where are you at, Chuck?
I'm right in between Austin and San Antonio.
Dude, I'm right between Austin and Houston. I'm in Bastrop.
Dude, Comic Palooza. Like, we got to be hitting some shows together, brother.
Yeah, definitely. When everything opens back up, we're getting together. But I wanted to swing back around, Chuck, and ask you the question when you went off to enjoy some of your Whataburger burger there, is that if you could give a piece of advice to somebody starting their first crowdfunding, you heard what Shaun said. He had some great advice, but what would you give them as well?
So that advice is amazing advice. It's been so helpful. I see you staring at me, you creep. He's just like, that was great. And that's really good and stuff. What I would do to add on to that is I would say, be a part of the community, man. That's so huge, because there's so much cross promotion. You can find other books that are similar to yours, or at least have something, or even like if they're not similar at all, you can at least say, hey, while you're looking for good books, why don't you check these guys out? And they'll say, oh, well, while you're enjoying us, why don't you go check? And so you can kind of trade off backers and share stuff around and stuff. That stuff is huge. It's such a big help. So I would definitely say being a part of the community, because when I first joined, when I first became a comic creator, the Kickstarter that I was a part of, we weren't a part of the community. And it's actually the reason why I became an editor at the beginning was I realized after the first failed Kickstarter, I don't have a name. Like, my name doesn't mean anything.
Right.
What I do doesn't mean anything. I have to do something. And so I went out there and I decided my name has to mean something on a book. It needs to help sell, or else what's the point? And so I took that really seriously, have not stopped. And so what I do differently than a lot of other editors is that when I'm on a book, I push that book. You know, so I mean, I've even told, I remember talking with some guys recently, and they were like, hey, we need some proofing done on our book. And I pointed them to a particular person. I said, deal with them. They've got a really good price. Like, this is what it is. And they're really great. And you should go with them. And they're like, well, what about you? And I said, well, I'm this. And mine was like considerably almost double the price. And they were like, whoa, but you said they're the best. And I'm like, yep, they're better than I am. Like, oh, well, why do you charge that much more then? I'm like, because you got my name on a book and I'm going to push that book. And they're not, because that's not what a lot of these people do. And so anything you're a part of, anything you respect or appreciate, show it off. Fucking share it. That stuff is priceless. And now I can afford to charge a little bit more because people know that Chuck's going to talk about it and it means something. And so it's not that difficult. I had an experienced editor come to me and tell me, you're my competition. What are you doing that I'm not doing? And I said, well, I'm not your competition and you're not mine. I don't see it that way. And that might come off as cocky as shit, but it's the reality of the situation. They'll either come to me or they'll go to someone else. And as long as I'm still working, I don't give a shit. So to me, there's that competition thing is a joke. But also, I push and I talk about people's books. And he was like, yeah, I don't think that does anything. Well, no offense. I'm still in the business. So it means an awful lot.
Well, that's it.
Team
If you
members that
are
are willing to be cheerleaders are worth double than somebody that's just doing work. I'm going to tell you, having Chuck and myself both active in the community, both willing to engage people, is going to have twice the impact as pushing a book by yourself and only having team members that exist as a name on a cover or inside your book.
I mean, that's the hope, right? Like we gotta hope. Like let's see what the numbers come in on this one.
Yeah.
well, that's it. If you don't have the team members who are pushing for the book, then other people are going to see that and go, why aren't they doing that? You know?
Yeah.
And it's really, I mean, marketing 101 on any of these books, any of your creations out there. It's like you want people to like you because that's what they connect with. People connect with people, not the things. Yep. So that's the first, step in the door. The next one is, not collaborate necessarily, but share each other's things. It's not that hard to push the button and share it out to your network, but so many people don't. And I don't understand that thinking. I really don't. I mean, it's a mystery to me.
Yeah, like literally right before we did this, I dropped one of my Chuck's Raw reviews where I got to talk about somebody else's book and got to push someone else's Kickstarter. I don't, do you get some support from that? Certainly you do, but you don't know what that's going to be. Some people are going to give you tons and some people aren't going to give you any. And it's never about like kind of picking and choosing. It's just, what do I like? What do I feel like talking about today? I'm going to go do it. I'm going to get it out there into the world. And, if it doesn't happen, whatever. I had fun and I got to be out there and so I think you got to support. It's really important because our industry needs all the push it can get.
Mm-hmm. And you know what? We're going to take a real quick break again, and we'll be back in about 30 seconds.
Now, every Sunday morning, longtime independent comics creator and Indie Volt podcaster Randy Zimmerman hosts a discussion on the lighter side of comics, the more whimsical and fun comics out there on the Sunday Funnies. That's 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time every Sunday on Indie Volt, indievolt.com, the Indie Volt YouTube channel, and the usual Indie Volt sites on Facebook. Listen in, won't you? Participate in the chat. Let's have some fun. See you there.
Now
We're back.
I've got a question for Chuck, and then I've got a question for Shaun, and then I got a question for both of you. So we're gonna have to space this out, or Meredith's gonna get all jealous that I'm hogging the time. But Chuck, who was the writer that you would say have been the most influential on you?
100% it's Chris Claremont.
Nice.
I love his X-Men, and I love the way he weaves things in and plays with multiple storylines and all that kind of stuff. And that's just where my sentimentalities are, and I love doing that kind of stuff. So certainly, definitely for comics, that would be him. But I mean, even just in general, I just love what he does. I mean, I haven't seen it as much in his more recent stuff, but certainly during his heyday, that was my stuff, and I loved what he did, and that was huge on me.
That's right at the time that I got into X-Men and really got into comics. Was that early 90s. I got into Batman, Superman, Batman. I collected years worth of, but then the X-Men drew me in. The big thing that blew me off of Marvel and then even DC eventually was just all the crossovers they did. I didn't want to have to go and collect 15 different titles just to follow the effing storyline. Because I was already spending enough money on variants, and I had 5 titles of Batman, 3 titles of X-Men, 3 titles of Spider-Man, and then the indies that I collected. But Shaun, I wanted to ask you the same question in a different format. Which artists have been most influential on you?
For me, I'm really bad with names and whatnot as far as recognizing anybody by name. But the one name that actually does stand out for me is a gentleman by the name of Dan Shafer. And he does a book called Dog Witch. He also does Scribblers. And it's more of like, I like the darker approach to comic books and the not so mainstream type of stuff going on. And so his approach with black and white comic books and stuff like that actually are what inspired me when I really started trying to get into thinking about possibly making a comic book. But so before that, though, it was more the titles that I was interested in recognizing. So as far as the titles and stuff was more like the Evil Ernie, Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, Squee, stuff like that. So the off-center stuff, the not so mainstream, the little bit twisted. So
man, I loved me some Evil Ernie. I met Polito early on back in the day. I was thinking the other day how long it's been, and then it makes me feel old. And then you don't want to say that to Brian because he would be feeling even older. I always tell the joke, or not the joke, but the story. It was so kind of cute because he was so enthralled that he was here in Texas in a little town called Cleburne, and he was just enamored that there was a Mexican restaurant called Polito's, and it was spelled exactly the way his name was, and so we had to go eat there. But I'm the same way. I love a lot of the old school stuff, man. Like I said a minute ago, that's really when I got into comics. When I was growing up, I liked the Superman show, TV show. I liked, even Adam West Batman, but I really wasn't into comics until later in life. But Chuck, who would you say then and now? What was your favorite comic book when you got into comics, and then what is your favorite comic now?
Well, crap. I mean, then it was X-Men. I really loved mainstream stuff and whatnot. So for me, it was definitely X-Men. Now I don't do mainstream at all, and it's not an attack on mainstream. My issue is that I don't believe any of these characters are made to be around for 60 years. It doesn't make sense. They become they become caricatures of themselves, wherein their backstories and whatnot have to be constantly retconned because these new writers need something to play with. And I hate how people are like, oh, these new writers all suck. No, man, these writers are playing in playgrounds that are just gravel now. And how are you going to make a damn sandcastle out of fucking gravel? So
Beautifully put. Beautifully put.
Thank you. I give a lot of love to these guys because when they are able to make it work, good for you. I would love to be able to have the opportunity to play in there, but I know that it would be fucking difficult. So for me right now, I'm all about the indies. I love these guys I'm working with. If we're talking about higher echelons, I'm a massive Brian K. Vaughan fan.
Oh,
so
shit.
I am loving Saga. I love what he's done with that series, and I love what he does. I followed him through a lot of stuff, so that's my dude right now, and that's the kind of stuff I kind of check out.
Shaun, same question to you. Comic then, comic now.
Let's see. So when I was young, probably the ones that stand out to me are going to be your Evil Ernie, your Pit. There was a comic called Boof, which was a little bit off center. That was
yes.
So that was a lot of fun. I like the styles and stuff that came, and so that's kind of the stuff that I tried to emulate early on, doing artwork and stuff to get away from my house life as a kid. And nowadays, I find myself also attracted to the indie stuff, but I think a lot of that comes with connecting through the people that are there. The passion actually is a lot more real. It's a lot more saturated, and I find it easier to actually ask questions about a story and actually get into it, kind of like reading the back of a book. You get into the story, you get into the characters, and you know that for a lot of these, there's going to be a resolve. Now, if it's popular, shoots off and does something else or expands, that's friggin' awesome. And watching people like my buddy Garrett Gunn, who did the Franklin and Ghost comic book, and watching him come out with that, and then watching him expand upon that and become successful, I'm just as invested in that as much as I am the comic books and stuff. So, but fans of indie comics now that I would have to say are going to be like Travis Gibb. It's going to be Kyron Silva. It's going to be people that are deeply connected with their works and really pushing their heart into their projects.
See, and I'm one of those that, like I said earlier, I did get into the mainstream comics in the 90s, but I actually worked out a deal with a comic book store owner. I was an electrician apprentice for a long time, so I started doing a lot of electrical work around his big comic book store, and he would pay me half in cash and half in store credit. I had a very big comic book bill, so that sounded very appealing to me. But I got into the indies a lot back then. Wandering Star, Poison Elves. Drew Hayes was amazing. I met him in person. I can't remember the lady's name who did Wandering Star. I met her as well. I know Drew's daughter has continued on with Poison Elves now, I believe. It pisses me off because I had all of those. Those all got ripped off from me. I also loved She, Brian or Billy Tucci's
Billy Tucci.
Love it. I have a tattoo of it. There's a statue in the case behind me of She. I have been a She fan since the beginning. I pre-ordered the first two. And so I've been one of those that has always loved indies. And when we really got going here at Geek Insider and I asked Meredith to come over, she didn't really have a lot of knowledge on comics at the time, but it was like a fish to water. She's a freelance writer. She's a horror lover. And so just the indies were just, like I said, like a fish to water. One of my favorites from way back then was Milk and Cheese. But I gotta ask real quick. We'll start with Shaun. Oh, hush. if you could see any indie movie not your own or indie comic made into a movie that was not your own, what comic would you like to see made into a movie? Indie comic.
All right. You know what? I'm probably gonna have to say, and this is for my own entertainment purposes, I'm probably gonna go with Eric Cockrell's Blister, because I think that would be so fun to watch. I think that would be absolutely just a blast. I like the characters, I like the attitude, the comedy. I really think it would translate really, really fun.
And
That's
if you guys are watching, you're going to see the smoke coming out of Chuck's ears right now.
Right? Oh my gosh. I mean, guys, on my review show, I just dropped episode 56. I read a lot of comics. So I'm like, oh, I would do this and I would do that. And, oh, holy shit.
Only one?
Right?
And that's why you had me first give Chuck a chance to think about it.
And you specifically said movie, right?
Yeah. Well, no,
Okay.
we can say
No. Don't.
Oh, okay.
You don't have to back up for me, man. If that actually helps me, narrowing it down helps me a lot.
You can't give him the Jack in the Box menu when he needs a Taco Bell.
Yeah. Either way, when this is all said and done, I'm probably going to shit myself. Okay, yeah, I would do Brian Silveira's Bun. I am a huge fantasy fan. No, you know what? Check it out. It's very underrated. His stuff is all black and white, and it is the most twisted, fucked up fantasy I've ever seen. I'm a huge fantasy fan. J.R.R. Tolkien is one of my first big, huge influences early on. And so he just has this really messed up fantasy. It's all his own stuff. It's so out there, and it's got its own like religion and all this societal things and all that. It's amazing. And it's going to end up being a five or six part piece. And so I think altogether, from what I've seen of the first three issues, it would make an absolutely amazing movie. So I'd be all in on that.
It'd be beautiful.
Meredith,
I'd like to get animated.
Right?
Meredith,
you have to animate it.
We're running out of time, Meredith. We only got a few minutes left because these guys got something else going on after this. So sorry, but you don't get any more questions. Chuck,
I'm okay with that. I'm just here for the candy.
Guys, we've touched on a lot of comics, not mainstream and indie, and one kind of reoccurring theme has come up between all three of us. And so I gotta ask you, because I think that I have my druthers, as we say here in Texas, black and white or color comic. Shaun.
I'm gonna say that it's gonna strongly rely on the writing for me. A comic that is well written will shine in the writing area of a black and white book. Yes. And if you really aren't that comfortable so much in maybe the writing, some people are attracted more to beautiful colors. So to me, I personally am attracted to darker themed comic books and the story and like the psychological aspect to a lot of the stories that I enjoy. So I would gravitate more to black and white.
Chuck?
Yeah, and that was a really good point, Shaun. So I like color because you get the whole visual, you get everything there. I love that. It also helps to kind of smudge off some of the imperfections while you're staring at the pretty colors. You forget that, oh yeah, maybe they forgot to mention his name or whatever, like it's another layer to enjoy. But Shaun's dead on right. If it's black and white, it has to be tight. And Belial is black and white, and that's something that we worked very hard on, is that we were like, this thing has to be tight or else it's not going to be at the level either of us are going to be happy with. So I prefer color, but black and white, if it's tight, I'm in.
Yeah, and see, that was a big thing that drew me into comics when I did get into them, was the artwork. And of course, back then everything was hand penciled in or hand colored in, but just
it's with chalk, right?
Huh?
Chalk and stones.
Hey, I ain't that old. I ain't that old. The beard makes me look older. Older. But no, the artwork, especially with, I mentioned a minute ago, Billy Tucci, even the Batman, all the Batman stuff, just the artwork. It wasn't the old school, 60s Batman. It was freaking Batman. It was dark. But I also freaking fell in love with J.O. Bear's The Crow, which all of the different incarnations of, and it was black and white. And the story and the artwork, I get chills just thinking about. I've got a Crow tattoo. The Crow movie is my all-time favorite movie. The Crow comic, it would probably, if I had to pick one, if somebody put, so you got to pick one. The Crow comic is probably my favorite comic of all time, just because it was new. I loved the storyline, and what a lot of people don't realize is when you get into to Bear's original storylines, the Crow fucking talks. And the Crow is a smart ass. Mm-hmm. and I heard that they were going to remake the original and they were bringing in Aquaman. Thank God that's out now, because they were going to have him as Eric Draven. But
I don't think it would have worked as well.
It wouldn't have. And not only that, it pisses me off because there's some really great Crow storylines out there that could be remade. There's the woman Crow, that she's the naturalist enforcer or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to get into all that. But the
final question, Matthew. Final question.
Oh, yeah, we'll run it because these guys got to run it.
Say goodbye.
Yeah.
Well,
all right. So
I'm gonna jump in real quick because you mentioned tattoos several times. So I'm gonna throw this out here. If you guys want to see Shaun and I get hurt, we made this promise to ourselves and to everyone that if this campaign hits 10K, our goal is just under 4K, but if we hit 10K, Shaun and I are going to go out and we are both going to get Link tattoos from Belial. So
wait. It shouldn't be a tattoo that you like. It should be a My Little Pony or Boo Boo.
It's got to be our character. It's got to be our character.
No,
don't be mean, Matthew. Don't be mean.
I've got over 20 tattoos. It's if y'all want to entice the sphere, the world. Yeah, that's beautiful. If you want to entice the world to get out there, then you got to make it something embarrassing. Like you got to get Shaun's name tattooed on you, and he's got to get your name tattooed on him. That's how you get money. That's how you get money.
My name in a heart around his nipple.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, Shaun, you just did it. That is the 10th tier. That's the 10th tier.
That's the 10K tier. All right. You know what? I might be able to do that.
You heard it here first. If they hit 10,000, Chuck's going to get Shaun with a heart around his.
Oh, no, because they already said the 10,000. You've got to up
15.
the ante.
15.
I think that's worth
fuck yeah.
20.
I'll get a heart there. Yeah, I'll get a heart.
Get a heart. Yeah, there you go.
At 15K, I'll get a heart wherever the hell you want me to.
Well, guys, we could definitely talk for a lot longer. Yeah. We've enjoyed having you all on here. We know y'all have got another gig going on, so we always wrap our show with one question to every guest. And Shaun, we'll start with you. Is if you could go back in time and you could give your younger self only one piece of advice, what would it be?
To do it earlier. And that stems by the fact that my journey into creating comic books starts because of a promise I made to my grandmother on her deathbed. And
nice.
As I fulfill this, everything that I've done so far has been kind of a benchmark that I've set for myself. She had always been my biggest fan. She had, showcased my artwork growing up, and she had kind of inspired me. And so I would like to have gotten started earlier to be able to show her.
Very cool. Chuck, same question to you, buddy.
Dude, it's really close to the same thing. I would tell myself, dude, you ended up with a great wife and a career you're really happy about, but it took some time. Don't fuck around. Jump into it now. So yeah, I would just say, get on it.
And mine kind of piggybacks off of that, or one of my main ones, because I didn't start writing until 3 years ago, even though way back in middle school, I was told, Matthew, you're a really good writer. You should pursue this as a career. And I would tell stories to my kids. I would tell stories to the family. And they were always like, you're great. You should write this down and try to publish it. But I always had it in the back of my head. Am I really that good? Now I make a decent living at my writing. There's still a lot that I want to do, but I wish I keep kicking myself in the ass all the time that I didn't start 30 years ago. And so take this advice, folks. If you are out there, if you've got any bit of talent, and even if you don't have the talent, but you have the desire and you want to build that talent, start now. Don't put it off. Don't wait until you are forced into a position of you have to try it, or you're going to go crazy. Because otherwise, trust me, you are going to go crazy. You're going to regret it. Go. Life is too short. Go for what you love.
And well, before we end this, let us know where we can find you guys.
Exactly what I was going to ask.
We're going to share it with you. Shut up, Matthew. It's my turn, damn it.
Hey, I told you couldn't talk anymore. I told you couldn't talk anymore.
Kick his ass, girl. Kick his ass.
You just wait. Buddy. All right, tell us where we can find you. We'll end the broadcast. Then we'll boot you out of here so that you can get on to the next thing.
Well, before I do that, thank you guys so much for having us on. We really appreciate it. We love what you guys do, and please keep it up, because we all really need that support, and you guys are just amazing at what you do. So thank you so much. My name is Chuck Pineau. I'm a freelance writer and editor. If you didn't already know that, then go back to the beginning and watch the whole damn show, you punk. You can find me on Facebook, Chuck Pineau. You can find me on Twitter at ChuckyPin. You can find Chuck Pineau on Instagram. You can find my Chuck's Raw Reviews on YouTube. And, of course, you can find Belial Comic on Facebook, Essence House on Facebook, and Bonfire Press, my publishing wing, on Facebook as well.
Chuck, you need some more social media platforms, buddy.
Yeah, I know.
I know, right?
Get out of here, you fucker. Shaun, how about you?
Again, my name is Shaun Barbour, freelance inker. You can find me by this spelling right here on Facebook, ShaunBarbour. Let's see. Other than that, I've got Instinct on Instagram, INSTINK3D. And then, of course, Belial on Facebook. We have our own Facebook page for lots of fun. I'm constantly posting memes within the realm of our theme, not just Belial stuff. So we always keep it fun. And that is, if you just want to type it in the search, just look for Belial Comic.
And,
Chuck,
and remember,
quick,
folks, it's Shaun Barbour. So if you call him Shaun Barbour for 3 years, you're going to look like a fucking idiot. Just like, me. So, yeah, Barbour.
Chuck,
At some
when
point,
does
you can't correct anybody. At that point, you're just like, it is what it is, dude. It's okay.
Tell everybody when the Kickstarter starts real quick for Belial.
October 31st for Belial, November 1st for Essence House.
He misspoke.
Perfect.
It's October 13th. You got a little Tourette's going on.
Oh,
October
yeah.
13th.
October
Tourette's.
13th.
You
All
wanna
right,
get
where's
it
the drugs
early.
at? Yeah.
First, he's trying to cheat people out of that coaster because he wants fun for himself.
I'm gonna.
It's not Tourette's though; it was dyslexia.
Oh,
The Tourette's made him say that, okay?
yeah.
I've worked an awful lot with Rob Anderson, who is dyslexic, and I think it kind of wore off on me. That's my excuse, and fucking, I'm sticking to it.
You guys get out of here. I'm hitting the outro. Bye.
Yeah, bye guys.
Thank you guys.
Thanks so much.
You've been tuning in to Geek Speak with Matthew Harris and Meredith Lochran, a Geek Insider presentation. Subscribe to the Geek Insider Podcast on your favorite listening app and sign up for the newsletter on our website. We also have advertising opportunities through the website, podcast, and newsletter. For details, contact advertising at geekinsider.com. This has been a Geek Insider production. Thank you for listening. Geek out.